Hi, and welcome to Manned Up Conversations, where we connect with evolving men to discuss issues around masculinity and manhood, and also provide tools to help us be better for our society.
Testicular cancer, first of all, it's young men between 15 and 45, the most common cancer. And the best thing that guys can do is, like, women have to check their breasts once a month for lumps. We guys have to check our balls once a month. So the ball itself, it's smooth. The surface of the balls are smooth. They've got these veins and strings at the back, and the cancer is never in these veins and strings. It's in the ball itself because it developed out of sperm cells. So if we do a monthly check and you take your thumb and you go over your balls, the best place would be in the bath or under a shower when it's warm and they hang loose, that you can feel around the ball. So if you feel the surface of the ball and normally it's smooth, and after a while, because you do it regularly, you will exactly know how it feels.
Exactly.
So if cancer starts growing, it makes a little bump on that smooth surface. So if you feel something, you say, wow, this wasn't there a month ago, then you should go immediately to the doctor. That is an early stage.
Well, Torsten, this is our second run at this, so I hope we get it right this time, man.
Well, that's technology. Otherwise, we try it again.
But I think we should be well today.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are you doing?
All good. Sunny in Cape Town. It's warm.
Yeah.
So summer is here, but that can change within 24 hours in Cape Town.
Yeah,
so.
well, I think less than 24 hours. We're looking at, I think your weather changes in about, every 6 to 8 hours or something like that, huh?
Yeah. It's like 4 seasons a day.
Sure. Well, Torsten, man, I'm glad you joined. It's an awesome pleasure to obviously do this with you. I know you're doing amazing work in the space with men. Your Love Your Nuts Foundation. I can see you've got the beautiful shirt there. Let's get into the story of Love Your Nuts, and your story with testicular cancer in particular. How did you start the journey?
I was 30 years old when I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. So I was a teacher during that time. That was in 1995. So it was before internet, before support groups on social media and everywhere.
Sure.
So it was a lonely and dark journey way back for more than one reason. Obviously, no connections in internet didn't exist during that time, like Facebook kind of things where you can find help. And secondly, other information was also limited because it was way back in Namibia. So it was not a big city where you got all kinds of information or access to information. Not that there wasn't information, but less. And the third thing was I couldn't find any other guy to talk to that's been through the same journey, because we men, we don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about our fears. We don't talk about when we're not feeling well.
Yeah.
So I couldn't find any other person to talk to. So it was a lonely and dark journey, and I think that's the reason, or that added to the reasons to start a foundation where I feel like there's not enough information for men, or not really available platforms where they can reach out and say, well, I feel like this, or I need help, kind of thing. And I'm obviously working more in the cancer space, but cancer is one thing, it's the disease, but with that comes a lot of other things as well. It's a lonely journey. Guys can't cope with the feelings because they don't know how. They often get depressed. So cancer's a whole package kind of thing.
Man. And it's interesting that you were a teacher at the time. And I know you share a story of, you shared that you have you have cancer. I don't know if you actually mentioned as testicular cancer or you just said cancer.
Yeah, I mentioned that it was testicular cancer. Sure. Yeah, it's funny in a way. That I was actually preparing lessons for sex education for the grade 5s at the German school in Windhoek.
Yeah.
And my mother tongue is German, but I studied in English and Afrikaans, and I can explain sex education easily the way I've studied it, but suddenly you have to teach the little ones. And when I was in Germany, I bought a children's book on sex education that was written for kids. So it was in their language, it was on their level. So I was lying in bed in the evening and reading this book on sex education, preparing lessons actually for the next day. And there was a chapter on all the diseases and a little paragraph that said testicular cancer is most common between 15 and 45. And while lying in bed reading this, excuse me, I felt, thank you. I felt, I rated 15 to 45. I was 30. And I checked my nuts and I felt a little lump, not bigger than the tip of my finger, my small finger.
Wow.
No pain, nothing. And then typical male, we're not going to talk about this. And you find 100 excuses not to go to the doctor because I said, just because you read it now and there's no pain, maybe it was always there, but I never felt it before, kind of things. And then I went to the doctor 14 days later, and then it was cancer. So school, it was in the lesson, preparing lessons, where I found out. And when I had chemotherapy, there was a 12-year-old who had testicular cancer. And after my treatment, when I was back at school, I thought all these boys that pass me on the corridor every day, they all love their nuts because that's what we men do. We love our balls. But
that's the thing that we probably touch the most, part of our body, right? Yeah.
That's why we got the words like crown jewels and
the family jewels,
have some balls,
the kahunas.
Exactly. So I thought all these boys pass me on the passage every day. They're at risk. They all love their nuts, but they're at risk because they don't know that they should check once a month. So every year when I got a new class group in biology, I say to them, I used one lesson to tell them what happened to me. And girls were sitting in class as well. So I said to them, no books out today. We're going to talk boobs and balls.
Wow.
So I used that because girls were sitting there. Then it's not embarrassing for either of the genders because I took balls and I took boobs. And I said to them, both these cancers is self-examination. Both these cancers, you search for lumps. And both these cancers, if you detect them early, you've got a good chance to survive. And I'm a living example of that. And then I shared my story, what I did, what I went through. So I did that every year. And then in 2006, I stopped teaching 2005. In 2006, a former student invited me for coffee. And he said to me, because you made us aware, I went to the doctor in time. I'm 16, I've got testicular cancer, and you saved my life. And he is actually the reason I started the charity, because I realized just because I'm open about what happened to me, I don't find it embarrassing because we're talking about other body parts without thinking it's embarrassing. But just because it's the balls and they can get cancer too, nobody talks about. And people die because nobody talks about it. So he's actually the reason I've started the charity. Okay.
That's a real interesting story. And I mean, I love that you keep alluding to the fact that we hardly talk about it, right? And you when you gave your talk in school, you spoke about boobs and balls. And I think that kind of made it inclusive, whereas like the conversation about breast cancer and all of that type of stuff is very much, I wouldn't say it's mainstream, but I think we hear about it so much more often than testicular cancer as men, right? So, I mean, what do you think is one of the reasons? I know you touched on it a little bit, but what are some of the main reasons that you found that we don't talk much about it? There's so much shame and stigma around talking about your balls, you know?
Yeah, I think with men, or it starts as a boy, we are often brought up in a way like boys don't cry, men are strong. So we learn not to show our feelings. We learn not to allow our feelings, to talk about what bothers us, how we feel, and because we have to be strong. And that's what people think, and it's actually ridiculous. And I think because we've got feelings as women, women's got feelings and they talk about it.
Exactly.
They talk to friends about it. So you will easily find two ladies sitting in a cafe, two friends, and the one will say, you know what, I feel a lump here on my breast. Do you think I should go and see the doctor? And the friend will say, yes, please go. You won't find two guys sitting at the bar where the one says to the other one, you know, I feel a lump there on my ball. Not good. The other person just
my one ball is just a little bit heavy.
We don't talk about it. Why? Because we don't know how. Because we've never learned And I always say cancer taught me to allow my feelings. So it was a dark and lonely journey when I was 30, because suddenly you get the message, you've got cancer and you're not sure if you're going to survive or not. And then your feelings knock on your door because they like to be handled, they like to be attended to.
Yeah.
And you don't know how. And it cracks you. And that's the problem with men. We don't know how. We don't know because we brought up, you don't show the feelings. So we learned not to show feelings. So suddenly somebody says, well, you can show your feelings. And then it's like, how do I do this? I've never done this. I've never learned how to show my feelings. And I think that's often where women are also frustrated with men, because they like to talk about something and men don't know what to answer. And women feel like, just talk to me. And I can't. Not because I don't want to. I can't. I don't know how.
Man. So there's like a whole re-education that we need as guys, right? Even from even developing a language. I mean, it doesn't have to be, can I say, as vast as women have in their talks, but at least having just the little bit of vocabulary to say that I'm not doing well. You know, these this really feels uncomfortable for me, and maybe I actually don't know what to do. You know, we could come out and say that, like, yo, you know, this thing is happening. I know nothing about it. I've never even tried to check. So, hey, you know, what could you recommend? You know,
it's okay not to be okay. If we all got days where we are down and don't feel well or whatever, and it's okay because everybody goes through it. But we men, we pretend we're okay, and it's okay not to be okay.
Man,
that's what we actually have to learn.
Exactly. Stop being stoic all the time. Come on, fellas, man. You know, you got some feelings too, man. So, I mean, you touched on a little bit now about you felt, you know, I'm small, little, can I call it a lump? Like the sort of the size of the tip of your finger, of your little finger. So, I mean, those are sort of the early signs of it, right? So then how can we then detect, you know, when, I mean, the best time is obviously rather go sooner than later. But what are some of those initial and sort of advanced signs of testicular cancer?
Yeah, testicular cancer, first of all, it's young men between 15 and 45, the most common cancer. And the best thing that guys can do is, like, women have to check their breasts once a month for lumps. We guys have to check our balls once a month. So the ball itself, it's smooth. The surface of the balls are smooth. They've got these veins and strings at the back, and the cancer is never in these veins and strings. It's in the ball itself because it developed out of sperm cells. So if we do a monthly check and you take your thumb and you go over your balls, best place would be in the bath or under a shower when it's warm and they hang loose, that you can feel around the ball. So if you feel the surface of the ball and normally it's smooth, and after a while, because you do it regularly, you will exactly know how it feels. So if cancer starts growing, it makes a little bump on that smooth surface. So if you feel something, you say, wow, this wasn't there a month ago, then you should go immediately to the doctor. That is an early stage, and it's normally no pain. Some symptoms are, in an early stage, it's normally no pain. Symptoms in the early stage could be the one ball feels heavier than the other, and you don't know why. It's often a little bit bigger than the other one. And these are and sometimes in the groin area, you've got a slight pain, but not a pain where you think, oh, I have to take a painkiller now, or I have to see somebody. Like when you play soccer and you get a ball on your balls, that feeling, but a very, very percentage only of. No, it's not really painful. It's not like getting a soccer ball on your balls.
Sure.
These are the early signs, but I have to mention that it's normal that the one ball is a little bit bigger than the other. So if guys check, and they're not that they're scared because they suddenly feel, oh, my one ball is bigger than the other.
I was about to ask you that.
It's normal that they're not the same size. They're not 100% the same size. And it's also normal that the one hangs lower than the other. Because I mentioned they feel heavier. Guys then often say to me, oh, the one hangs lower because he's heavier. No, it's not. They don't hang next to each other. If they would hang next to each other like this, we couldn't walk properly because they would be So they just etch like this, that it's smooth, that they pass each other if you walk, kind of thing. So that's the reasons why. So these are the early signs. And if you detect it in that stage, then it's a case like my case. It's surgery. They remove the one ball. You don't need chemotherapy. And if you need only a little bit, the advanced stages, if that opens up that little lump, then the cancer cells float through your body float through the lymph and blood system into your body.
Yeah.
So, and then wherever they get stuck, they grow there. So at the end of the day, often with testicular cancer, they get stuck in the lungs or in your brain. And it's because the channel they would like to go through, they don't fit through there, but then they stuck there and they start growing there. That's when you hear the cancer has spread, that is actually what happened.
Wow.
These cells spread to your body, and wherever they get stuck, they start growing. And that is advanced stage. Then obviously there's pain in the ball because that thing opened up. And the ball is quite big, and often guys can't even sit properly. That's how much pain they've got.
Wow.
So there's definitely pain then. And then depends on where the cancer grows in the body, another place in the body. There, it could be that organ doesn't function properly anymore. Say, for example, one of these cells is stuck in the kidney and it grows to a huge tumor. Then that cancer tumor takes so much blood or oxygen and energy away from the kidney that the kidney actually can't function anymore, and suddenly you've got kidney pain, but it's actually the cancer who actually suffocates
from your balls. Pretty much. Wow. That is just crazy. I mean, I can just try to imagine that uncomfortability of it. Like you made a reference that, similar to being hit by a soccer ball on your balls, like how painful that is. So, I mean, I'm sure we've got some guys who are just walking around and just ignoring this pain. I mean, guys, come on. You have to take the responsibility. You can't just
and I don't want to scare the guys as well. It sounds horrible what I'm talking about now. But if you detect cancer early, and it's actually with all the cancers, some cancers you can't detect early because they grow inside your body. I can't feel my lungs or my kidneys or stuff, but we can feel our balls, and we love them anyway. So you can check them daily if you like to.
Sure.
We've got access to that organ where we can really feel if there's a lump growing or not, and that makes it even. There's no excuse not to do this, and then there's a good chance that you detect it early. And testicular cancer. It's a very aggressive cancer. So guys that don't go, they're normally gone within a year. But if you go, even in an advanced stage, the chemotherapy that they develop for this cancer works like a bomb. It normally kills the cancer.
Okay.
I think the best example is Lance Armstrong, cyclist.
The cyclist,
won the Tour de France. He had testicular cancer as well. But in his case, it spread already. So he was coughing blood already. That's how bad he was. Wow. Okay. And he went through the chemotherapy and he's fine. After that, he won the Tour de France.
And he still won some races.
So it's a very treatable cancer. Yeah, while with him, it's obviously different things. So not too famous
a bit of supplement there, a bit of extra cash here and there. Sure.
Yeah. People often ask me what I think about Lance Armstrong. Then I always say, because I don't go into the whole doping thing, because I think all these professionals, they do something. Otherwise, it's actually impossible to do what they do. I always say, well, he won the biggest race, the race against cancer. And then I shut the people up.
And he's still alive right now, right? And he's still doing
exactly. What the medals doesn't mean anything. He survived the cancer.
Man, that's incredible, Torsten. I mean, you mentioned something now earlier where you were saying that you can get chemotherapy or they would remove the ball that's then infected with this cancer. Yeah. But now there's this whole myth now. And, I'm also a lover of hip hop music. And a couple of years ago, we heard that Tupac got shot in the balls and he's been going around with one ball. So he's deficient. He can't have kids. And guys with one ball, there's the sperm count is lower and all of that type of stuff. So what do you think of those kind of myths? Does that even make any sense? Is there any truth to that?
Well, in my book, I mentioned it as well because guys often ask me that, and I say a pistol only needs one magazine to shoot sharp, so one ball is actually enough to have kids.
Bang bang.
Yeah. So because we've got two testicles, if they remove the one, you can still have kids. The hormones that your body needs are still produced. That one ball takes over the function of two balls. The sperm production is, there are enough sperms to have kids.
Yes.
The only thing is, if you've got chemotherapy if you've got testicular cancer and you have to go for chemotherapy, then the guys should go for sperm banking before they start with treatment, because chemotherapy can make you infertile. It makes you infertile for a short period of time during treatment, but it can be that the production doesn't start again. So if you go for sperm banking before the time, then you've got at least your own frozen sperm that can be used to have your own kids in future.
Wow.
So, but normally, even if you just got one ball, everything functions. So sex-wise, it's got no influence on that. Hormones are still produced. Sperm cells are produced. And you get guys, they say, okay, it looks awkward, just one ball, and they get an implant, that it looks normal again. So I've got an implant as well. So I even posted on social media. I always say, yes, my one nut is fake because the real one tried to kill me.
And how does that work? What do they cut you up and then insert something in there? Is like the texture
where they remove the ball, where they remove the ball, the same way they put in an artificial ball, which is normally silicone, and it's got the same shape. So if somebody sees it from out, they can't see that the one is fake or the other one is real.
Sure.
And if you feel it, then it's harder than the normal ball, and it doesn't have the veins and strings at the back, obviously, because they don't exist.
They don't do that. Yeah.
And they have to attach it into the tissue with the thin strings. And the reason for that is if they don't do it because of gravity, that ball will be hanging lower and lower. So I've got that one for 27 years. If it wouldn't have been attached, probably would be at my knees by now because of gravity.
Oh, man.
But it's even if they go for an implant, it looks normal. For me, it was an emotional thing. That's why I did it.
Sure.
Because I didn't want to stand in front of the mirror and feel like, because of cancer, I look like this now.
Man.
So I know the one is fake, but it looks normal. And it doesn't bother you if you, I ran comrades.
Wow.
And things like this. So it doesn't restrict you if movement-wise, not at all.
Wow.
So it fits in like a normal ball.
Okay. And now, Torsten, tell me about your book. I know you wrote a book also called Love Your Nuts. And in terms of how that's kind of been received, and what was the message you were really trying to drive with writing that book?
Yeah. Well, the book is actually, like I said, it was 95. There was no information. I couldn't find anybody to talk to.
Sure.
And my therapy was writing. So at night when I couldn't sleep, I switched on my computer and I just typed what went through my mind. And my book is actually how I found out about the cancer, how people, the interaction with people, the interaction with my students, because I was a teacher.
Sure.
I turned into a very depressed person. I resigned and I backpacked for 2 years just to come to rest with cancer. Sure. And then I came back to Namibia, started teaching again, and how difficult it was. I was back at my old school then again. So the majority of people I still knew. I was only away for 2 years. So most of the students still knew me. And most of the teachers were still there. But for me, it was it was different to start at my old school again, because my life changed a lot. Because of my cancer journey, my life changed completely, the way I think about life. I always think life is short. Don't wait. If you got aims and dreams in life, do it now. Because we don't know how much time we've got.
Exactly.
I was 30, and then you get hit by the message, you could be gone by tomorrow.
Man.
And that made me realize that if you follow your passion and your aims and dreams in life, then life makes sense, and then life is fun. So that is actually in the book. The book it's my feelings on paper. It was my therapy. But it's my cancer journey.
Man.
And when I was diagnosed on the Thursday, on the Friday morning, they removed the right testes. And 5 days later, the Wednesday, I got the results. And I always say these 5 days were the worst days in my life because you can't actually focus on anything. The one moment you think, well, if the doctor says, well, you only got 6 months left, what I'm going to do? And then you start crying because you're 30, because you don't want to die now. And the next moment you think, but maybe it was detected early. And then it's happiness. Then you cry because of happiness. So my feelings were on a roller coaster for 5 days. And during this 5 days, I made a bucket list, places I like to see before I die.
Yeah.
And because before 95, I traveled for 1 year as well. I traveled in 91 for a year.
Okay.
And I thought, if I've got 6 months left, I'm going to sell everything and I'm just going to pack my bag and I'm going to travel till money runs out or I run out.
Man.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was in 95. In 96, I was still teaching. I became a very depressed person. I couldn't cope with the kids anymore, with colleagues, with my family, with friends. I couldn't cope with my life anymore. So I resigned, sold my car, and I started working in Munich on a campsite. And I did like reception work and cleaning toilets and seasonal work just to earn some money.
Sure.
And the first month when I worked there was not much going on. And the boss there said to me, well, you can take a week off. So I went immediately to travel agent because I was 6 months in Munich.
Exactly.
And I thought, if I've got a week, I'll go somewhere else because I've got enough time for Munich. So I said to the travel agent, do you got anything on special? And she said to me, yes, a flight to New York. That same evening were still seats available. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to New York.
Oh, wow.
And so I booked the flight, went to a bookshop, bought myself a travel guide. Off to the campsite, had a shower, packed my backpack, off to the airport. And then on the flight to New York, I read that travel guide because I was obviously not prepared for a week New York. Sure. So I read how to get from JFK Airport to Manhattan. Where can I stay? What can I do? Because I was not prepared at all.
Yeah.
And then there was an ad in that book that said helicopter rides over Manhattan. And then my bucket list popped up because that was one thing I've written down on my bucket list back when I didn't know if I'm going to survive or not. Sure. So in the 4th day in New York, the weather was perfect and I did that helicopter ride. And I always say that was actually the turning point in my cancer journey, the turning point in my life, actually. Because up to that time and after that, obviously, still depressed, trying to find your feet again.
Sure.
Because I still constantly had that fear that cancer returns. And when I did that helicopter ride, I suddenly realized if you've got aims and dreams in life, and that doesn't matter if they don't make sense to anybody else, as long as they make sense to you.
Sure.
And if you follow them, then life is really beautiful. There I actually realized I've got the option. Either I stay parked in my cancer bay, enjoy another parking ticket, and feel sorry for myself and most probably spiral downwards till I commit suicide, or I get my first gear in and I move forward and do the things that they would. For me, the reason to move forward was like, well, I've got this bucket list. I did the one thing now that was beautiful. It felt like life makes sense and life is beautiful. So I backpacked for 2 years and I went to all these places on my bucket list. I traveled North America, South America, Australia. I flew to Hawaii to see an active volcano. All the things that were on the bucket list I did. And every time when I was at one of these places, and sometimes it was a simple thing. It was like driving over the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. It's not always like out of the world things that I've written down. And when I drove over that bridge, it was like I'm alive. I fulfill myself a dream that I've written down in a time where I was not sure if I'm going to survive or not.
Sure.
So that actually motivated me, and that changed my life. And that's why I stopped teaching later, because I couldn't see myself another 25 years as a teacher. And I love photography, so I taught myself graphic design, and I moved to Cape Town. Worked as a graphic designer.
Sure.
Because I found Windhoek too small then. And I thought, why must I live here? I can move somewhere else and start somewhere else. So I moved to Cape Town. When I moved here, obviously wine and food is way more available and nicer than in Windhoek. A lot of restaurants in Cape Town, a lot of good food and wine. So when I moved here, 2007, I was over 100 kilos. Wow. And then I stopped teaching and I started as a graphics designer. So suddenly you sit and eat. So I was over 100 kilos. And then 2008, I thought I just have to do something. And I started running. At school, I was good in 100 and 200 meters, but I never did long distance. So I thought, okay, I actually enjoyed running at school. So I started running. Obviously, at the beginning, only short stuff because I was not fit at all.
Sure.
The last time I was fit was like 20 years before the time when they chased us around in the army and you didn't have a choice.
Sure. Oh, man.
But in 2008, I lost 13 kilos just by getting exercise again. And then I entered my first 10-kilometer race and I enjoyed that. Suddenly I felt that all these people are doing it for fun. There's a nice vibe, people enjoying this, and that grabbed me. So I did a few 10 kilometers, then I entered 21s, and then 2010 I entered the Cape Town Marathon, but I didn't tell anybody because I thought, if I don't make it, if I don't finish that, nobody will know.
No one will know. No, it was just a personal goal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's again typical male. What if you don't make it? So what? Not everybody finishes the marathon, but that's typical male. Nobody should know because men should actually. If you do something like this, you finish it.
That male ego, man, very strong.
Yeah. So
man.
I finished the Cape Town Marathon in 4 hours 25, and I thought, okay, I actually qualified for Two Oceans because to qualify for an ultra marathon, you have to run a marathon in less than 5 hours. So I went home and I immediately entered for the next year. So 2011, the Two Oceans 56 kilometers. I did that and finished in 6.5 hours. Cutoff time was 7 hours. And then I thought, okay, Comrades is add another 33 kilometers. Then you've got Comrades, but Comrades cutoff time is 12 hours. And then I thought, okay, even if I walk the last 33 kilometers, I actually should make it. And then I entered Comrades. And I finished Comrades in 11 hours 13. And this was all within 4 years. So from couch potato to Comrades runner within 4 years.
Man, that's
and
a fascinating
also story. Cancer made me strong. So if I like to do something, if I follow a passion or a dream, I will get there. It's a matter of time kind of thing.
Man, Torsten, that's a wonderful story, man. I mean, I can even see the glow on your face when you say that, like it's like true survivor stuff.
It energizes me. It energizes me. Yeah.
Man, I love to hear that. I mean, just listening to that. And I also, one other thing that I really love about what you do is the lightness that you approach this subject in, because you've survived it and you kind of know, like you said, if you stay parked up and thinking, I've got cancer, then you kind of just fall into this trap of like not wanting to explore life. But then you went out and you did your thing, So, I mean, we might get some guys who tune into this now and, maybe they have, or maybe they haven't tried it out. And maybe once they self-examine, they might just find that, oops, there's a little lump down there. So what would you, just as we're about to close, what would you want to encourage guys to do? Yeah.
I would encourage guys, go and see a doctor immediately. And don't go to the specialist immediately. Go to your normal GP.
Yes, sir.
Because that he will check. And if he thinks it could be cancer, he will refer you to a specialist. Why I'm emphasizing this is if you've got a medical aid and you go directly to the specialist, the medical aid often turn around and says, who are you to decide to go to specialists? We're not going to pay for this. If you go to your doctor and he refers you, then the medical aid will pay for it because you were referred by the doctor. Yes, it's important. The first station with everything, first go to your doctor. Let him refer you to a specialist. Then it's covered by the medical aid. Before people fall in the trap, I often get these emails that they say, I feel something, I like to see a urologist or an oncologist, so a cancer doctor. I say, whoa, first go to your doctor. And if he thinks there's something wrong, then he can refer you, and then the medical aid covers that. And a lump doesn't always mean immediately testicular cancer. It could be an infection as well. It could be a lump there because your balls were always like this, and now you're suddenly scared, but you didn't feel it just because you heard about this now.
Sure.
So there are different reasons, and why there could be a lump, and it's not always cancer. So guys shouldn't be scared. But don't wait. Go to the doctor.
Man, I love that.
They can help you or refer you.
You actually just echoed. We had a doctor who's a urologist at the urology hospital here in Pretoria, and he actually did mention that a lot of people think because it's like something so foreign to them that you need a specialist, but your day-to-day doctor is the one that will most likely pick up on all of these things and would advise you before you think it's something too extreme.
Exactly, and if your GP, your doctor is not sure, he sends you for a sonar. Then they make a sonar or an X-ray. Just to see what it is. And if they can not really pick it up, then they send you to a specialist.
Man.
So your doctor won't leave it there if he's not sure. He won't say, well, okay, I don't know, go home. No, he will refer you if he can't help you. But that's the right channel.
Man,
if you don't want to waste your own money.
Come on, guys, man. Save yourself some bucks, go see someone and then get yourself educated before you go out and see the specialist. But I mean, we do encourage you to go out there and get some help, And Torsten, lastly, man, I mean, this is Men's Month. We touched on testicular cancer, and the big thing in SA is mental health. And, I'm a big, can I call myself a supporter of that? And I'm driving mental health specifically for Black guys like myself, because it's something that we're not really clued up on, But you went through a depressive phase, and what could you say, like words of encouragement for someone who's really dealing with some really bad mental stuff? What outlets can they use to kind of heal themselves?
Part of Love Your Nuts is I support testicular cancer patients. So what I didn't have way back, somebody to talk to. That's what I offer testicular cancer patients. And that is exactly guys who don't feel well, who feel down. Find somebody to talk to. Your friend, just by verbalizing things, just to say the words, I don't feel well. Often guys can't do this. And these guys that come to me, because they like to talk about testicular cancer, we often meet privately. I offer that to them. I say, well, we can meet in a pub or in a coffee shop or whatever, but we can meet privately as well. And 90% of them like to meet privately because they know they are feelings that are just built up and they don't know how to handle it. And then we meet at my place or at that person's place. Sure. And then they start crying. Just let go. Try to find somebody that you can talk to, that you trust, and share what you feel and think. It helps. It's like a valve that you open up and it deflates that all that build-up stuff that you actually don't know how to deal with. That is one way. For me, it was talking about this. I wrote things down. If you don't know, if you don't want to talk to somebody, just write it down. Nobody has to read it. Just write it down for yourself and read it tomorrow again. And then you will feel totally different. And a very good thing is also be nice to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Always. To yourself. We tend to put ourselves under pressure because we are men. We have to perform. Be kind. Be nice to yourself. Why do you want to be unkind to yourself? You're the closest to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Allow things. Follow the things that you love to do. And if it's really a case where you don't know anything or don't know the way forward, go to your doctor. Let him refer you to a psychologist. A psychologist is a brain doctor. He just structures what spins in your brain. He stops these thoughts and says, why you think this way? And then you suddenly realize, why I'm thinking this way? I'm actually in a vicious cycle here. I have to stop this. And he helps you just to structure your thoughts again.
Man,
that would be then if you need professional advice, go to your doctor and say, I like to see somebody. I have to go to somebody that I can talk to. And then they will refer you. And then the medical aid covers that normally. Go to your doctor first.
Man, well, Torsten, it's been a wonderful conversation, man. And I'm glad we got it right this time. And I appreciate you for your time and all the work that you're doing with Love Your Nuts Foundation. I appreciate you.